Hi, and welcome to the Divas Book Club review and discussion. My name is TJ.
Queen Leo.
Thank you all for joining us. I do want to take this time to say that today we are going to be reviewing the anticipated book, Allegedly, by Tiffany D. Jackson. But before we get started, I do want you to take a minute to like and subscribe to our page, the Divas Book Club. So, Mandy, just a few minutes ago, I was live on TikTok doing the same thing. So I had this together.
Awesome. I love it.
So thank you all for joining. We're going to have people join in on this discussion as time goes along. How we normally start, just so you know the format of this review and discussion. We'll talk about the synopsis, and then we'll get in, which is pretty much, the synopsis, what happened in the book. We'll, give you a summary. But let me warn you, spoiler alert. If you have not read this book, you may not want to watch this. I'd stop it now, because once we get started, we're going to give you spoilers in this, and we don't want to ruin it for anyone. Like I was saying on TikTok Live, I don't know about you guys. Mandy, how you feel about that? I like a little mystery when I go into a book.
Absolutely. Because we're going to be reviewing the book in detail, then I think that you should tread lightly. And if you do not want any spoilers, then that's fine. But if you don't mind, hey, jump on in
Hey,
there. Let's
listen.
go.
So go ahead, grab your drinks. As you can see, I have my drink of choice for tonight, which is a lovely Chardonnay. Diva Queen Leo has her. Do you have something there so we can get into
Watermelon,
it?
Long Island.
There you go. I'll drink to that. So listen, grab your drinks or grab your tea or your coffee or whatever, and let's get into this book. So again, we're going to be doing the book review and discussion for Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. Honey, I couldn't wait to read this book. It was my choice. Actually, I put 3 choices out there. That's how the book club works. And then the members vote on, the book of the month. So this is my month to choose the book and to host the book. And so let's get into it, because I can't wait to talk about it. So Allegedly, essentially, it's about this girl. Her name is Mary Addison. When she was 9 years old, she was babysitting a younger kid. Her name was Alyssa. Actually, it was a baby. So Alyssa was a baby, right? Queen Leo.
Yes,
She was a
yes.
baby. Okay, so she's babysitting the daughter. The little girl name was Alyssa. She's the daughter of a friend, which is their neighbor. And the neighbors are Mr. and Mrs. Richardson. And when she's babysitting, when they come back, they find that the police is at the house, and then they find out that Alyssa is dead. Alyssa had been brutally beaten. So they get into an investigation, and they find that the murderer was, or the murder had led to Mary. Now, pretty much the representation of, who was in charge, because keep in mind, Mary is only 9 years old. So really, and we'll get into that discussion later, like really who's responsible. But the mother wasn't there supposedly at the time, allegedly. I think that first of all, the title of this book is perfect, because a lot of this is allegedly. So the mother wasn't there. So the way the book starts off, in the beginning, and this is going to be like the first through chapter 1 through 9, pretty much talk about, at this point, she goes to what you're going to hear in the book a lot is, how do they say it, Queen Leo? Baby jail or baby prison?
Baby prison.
Baby
Baby
prison. You're going to hear
jail.
that reference. Yes, you're baby jail or something like that. You're going to hear that referenced a lot, because the way the book is set up. And I'm going to say this before going any further. We both listened to this through Audible. So I don't have the actual hardcover. So this is through Audible. You're going to hear a lot of that reference through Mary a lot. Baby prison, baby jail. So it starts out, she's 16 years old. She went from like a juvenile detention sort of setting, and now she's in a group home. and she's hoping that, you know, she'll have a future where she go to school, take the SATs, and go to college. But you know, because of her criminal record, like she's gonna have to have perfect scores. So she get that into her head, and she starts studying for that, and that's something that she wants to accomplish. During that time, she's dating this guy named Ted, and she's very much in love with Ted. She ends up getting pregnant by Ted, right? So of course, this poses as a problem because you know she's underage and she's pretty much a ward of the state. So she have very few rights, of course, when it comes to what happens to her child. And I'll continue to digress. So keep that in mind. So at this point, she's pregnant. She want her life to change, so she takes some advice from one of the girls that lived in the group home, and she contacts a lawyer. And she talks through with the lawyer how, you know, she's not guilty pretty much of the crime. And the lawyer talks to her and you know takes the case. Mary tells the whole story, what happened. And so the version of the events that she's telling the lawyer is different from what was documented in the original investigation. And so she decides that, well, the lawyer decides that we need to take another look at this case. The case is open. So fast forward, while that is going on, being in that group home, although it's not jail or you know baby prison or whatever, it's still a very how do you describe it, Queen Leo? It's like a halfway house, really, because she can go and come as she please, right?
It's a group home. But just to
Yeah.
kind of backtrack on something that you said, I think that initially, um, my interpretation was from because Mary was so young, they didn't know where to put her, but they knew that she needed to be removed from the home and um, incarcerated or whatever you want to call it. And I do believe that baby jail was really a real jail because they kept her down in the what did you call it when they put them in solitary or whatever? She stayed there the majority of
Yeah,
her time. So I think from like 9 to 15, she was in a real women's type of institution.
I thought it was more like a juvenile detention sort of thing, like where juveniles go. They don't go to prison. They go to like a juvenile detention center or
Center.
something to that
Yes.
extent. Yeah, yeah, they do. So she go from there. She spends what from like you said from age 9 to age 15 and until 16. I'm sorry. That's when they moved her to the group home. Yeah. So where did okay, so now she has the lawyer, but every day in this group home, it's like it's savage because you know those girls are they're criminals pretty much and they're violent. And so her struggle the entire time really is keeping peace with the girls that's there. There's particularly one of the girls that really didn't like Mary. And now you're gonna have to help me out with this, Queen Leo, because I can't think of her name. But the one that she got into it with and she ended up sending the girl to the hospital. Do you remember her name?
Are you talking about the new girl
No, not
or
New
are you
Girl.
speaking of
This
Tara? So she was, she had many incidents with several people.
yes, but one of them she
Tara
sent to the
was a big,
hospital.
the way they described her was she was a big girl. She was a bully.
Yes.
Um, I think the most uh evil person in the house. Then there was Keisha, who always wanted, she just wanted to be beautiful and pretty, but she
Yeah.
was manipulative in terms of um just taunting her.
Yes.
Um and then there was one other girl, I don't remember her name at the moment, that also was kind of bullying her too. So every day there was a point that she hated to go back to the group home because she knew that she was going to be terrorized. And her
Yeah.
only joy and peace was that they did give her, I guess she was working to at the old people's home or whatever to
Mhm.
earn her
Yeah,
her
yeah.
her
And that's
little
why I say
pay or whatever,
more
and that's how she
it was
met
more like a
Ted.
halfway house. Yes. Yep, that's she met Ted. I'm sorry, I didn't put that in there. So she didn't meet Ted at the group home. Of course, she met Ted at her day job, which was at like a nursing home. So yeah. So we're at the point of where she's in the group home. She's always being terrorized. And ever so often, like her mom would visit her. She has a very tumultuous relationship with her mom. The way I think it sort of portrayed was that she respected her mom, of course, and she was happy to see her. But when she got the lawyer, things started to change a little bit because, wasn't there a time or in one of the chapters where the mom found out that she had a lawyer and confronted her about it?
That's
Hi,
true.
Penny.
Hi, Penny.
Oh, Penny was there for a minute.
She just popped out. She'll be back. So
Okay. So
yes,
yeah,
so this is, I mean, she was new, fairly new in the group home. So these girls was taunting her and just really making her stay very difficult, because they
yes,
did also say at one point when Mary came to the group home, she was a mute. She
yes,
didn't talk. They didn't think that she had words,
yes.
could even speak. And so it sounded like those two ladies that was, well, one was like the security for the group home, and the other lady was um, the overseer or whatever at the group home, was some very, very mean people as well, and
Yes, they were.
nasty.
Yeah,
And so Mary just wasn't fitting in very well in the group home. So every day was a very difficult process for her in her journey.
yeah.
And the only
It was
joy that
very
she really
challenging, and
received
so
was when she was at the group home, and that she didn't feel like her life was threatened on, in those instances. But as soon as she walked back into the group home, there was always a physical threat
it
to
was a
her.
mess. Yeah, like they were savage there. Like for some reason, she did not get along with them. And you can pretty much what I got from the book, and this is just from my own opinion. The book, although it is a page turner, you're going to spend from the first chapter through at least chapter 12 and 13 with very little backstory on the specifics with what happened with the murder. I mean, pretty much they said, okay, Alyssa was beaten, and um but they didn't get into details about it. Like I kind of struggled at first because I was like, well, it's kind of weird to me that a 9-year-old would do that to a baby. Like, why? So those first few chapters it's mainly talking about her experience in the group home, and the fact that she's pregnant, and the fact that she has this boyfriend Ted. But and then with Ted, this actually happens early in the chapters where she finds out that he also has a girl on the side. He's a criminal too. He's in a group home himself, and he's a bit of a player. So
Hi,
yeah.
hi, ladies. Can y'all hear me?
Yep, we can hear
Yes.
you. Hi, Penny.
Hi, hi.
You have
Um,
perfect timing. We're just doing the synopsis of the book before we get into the questions. Anything that you want to add to the synopsis? I think I went through everything.
um, I came in. You were talking about her being in the group home and
Yeah,
her and Ted, their relationship,
yeah,
um, and how at the beginning you weren't really sure about like how could this young child do this to the baby. I really
yeah.
enjoyed how every time she mentioned um the baby getting killed, it was a pause and then it was allegedly.
Yes, we talked about that. Like I said that in the beginning. Perfect name for a book because it in just about a lot of the scenarios, it that pause allegedly. Because now you're reading it or you're listening to it, for those of us who listen to it, that pause, you're like, okay, so that's what it is. And then it's like pause allegedly. Very good, Tiffany D. Very good.
So
We
yeah, so
enjoyed
in
that.
the synopsis, it does all. I mean, basically, we break the book down, and we'll get to where Ted played his role, where her relationship was established, or maybe unestablished with her mom. We'll talk about the relationship with the girls in the home, as well as the, what do you want to call her, the headmaster or something? I'm not sure.
She's
Housemaster.
like the overseer. I don't know what to call it,
Yeah.
but she's the one that's over the group home. Like
I
she's the
guess
one
she was
that's
maybe
managing the
like the
girls.
manager, the house
Yeah,
manager, something like that.
yeah,
And it'll just go through the relationship, also of the child's mother that did pass, her probation officer, I guess we might want to call it, and just the relationships that she established along the way. And then we'll get to Mary tells her truth.
there you go. That's very good. So I guess we're at the end of the synopsis. You know what the book is about. Once again, I have to keep reminding you guys. First of all, like and subscribe to this channel because we're going to do this every month for our book of the month. So like and subscribe. And secondly, most importantly, spoiler alert. We finna spoil this thing. We're gonna tell you exactly what happened. Not exactly. We're gonna tell you exactly what happened. So if you haven't read it, don't don't continue with this because we may spoil it for you. So now we're over the synopsis. Let's get into the discussion. Let's talk about the chapters. And you know what? I think most importantly, the way this book was written, Queen Leo, you're on to something with the relationship. So the first relationship that she formulated was with the lawyer, pretty much telling her side of the story. And then the lawyer, I think at first reluctantly, because keep in mind when she first went to quote unquote baby prison, this made like national news. Like she was known as a baby killer. And that's another term that you're going to find popping up in the chapters over and over. She was the baby killer. She was dubbed as that in the media. So of course, anyone who decides to even take a look at this and work with her, they're going to be reluctant because the world, the media was against her. They painted her as this evil child. A child killed a 3-month-old baby.
One of the
So
things I can say about the lawyer was, um, when she initially met her, and I
mhm.
think a conversation was had. She had taken an interest in Mary's case when she was in law school. So
Okay.
um, that was something I found that was very intriguing. That um, was she when she was doing her studies, I think she was in a class and they were discussing the case. And she was the only
Yes.
one that was saying that it probably was some procedural errors in
Mhm.
Mary's case, which I um believe. I mean, it was a fascinating case for her, but I actually do believe that she did want to help Mary because she did not believe that she had killed the baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, over like I said, anyone dealing with this case, there is that reluctance because it was so big in the media. So that lawyer gave her a chance. And I think that was awesome because I don't know about y'all, but my thoughts were, okay, well, she's getting a lawyer because I'm thinking, how does a 9-year-old do this to a 3-month-old baby? Like, there's something about this is not right. There's more to this story. Queen Leo, what you think about that?
I certainly agree. I just wanted to kind of I think that one conversation that we should have is where she met the lady from the SAT um, testing center. I think that lady was played a major role for her as well, in terms of motivating her, pushing her, telling her she can do it,
Yeah.
and you know, instilling in her that can change her life. That doesn't have to be the beginning and end all for her life.
Yeah.
Um, I like that. And then from there, they went on, and that's where she was introduced um, to the lawyer. I'm not, I missed that piece. I was going to go back and listen to it. But who actually introduced her to the lawyer?
It was one of the girls at the group home, if I'm not mistaken,
Was it
gave
the new
her.
girl?
I don't think so. Pity, do you remember? I don't think it was New Girl. I think it was, or was it? Oh, you know what? It may have been. Because New Girl
Kenny,
came
you're
pretty
muted.
early on.
Thank you. I don't remember how did she come across the lawyer's information and she went and saw her. I have to think on that a moment because it's so much going on in this book that you have to sometimes you miss small parts. Um I'll have to think on that and I have to get back with you. But it may have been one of the girls in the group
Yeah.
home, or the new girl may have um
I think it was the new girl. So when the new girl came into the group home, that's when she found her new friend, the only person that she felt that she connected with within the group home. And the girl was helping her research the SHC testing, the calculator information. I think that she was the one that was giving her some great guidance at that point.
Yeah.
And just to speak about those ladies that was responsible for the home, I think that, if anyone ever has to go to a group home, they should have legitimate people in
Oh,
place to oversee them.
I remember it was it was the new girl. It was
okay.
the foundation that the lawyer worked for, the absolute foundation or something
Okay.
like that. It was the girl introduced her to this nonprofit, and the nonprofit and the lawyer worked for the nonprofit. That's how they got connected. So it was a new girl in a way. They introduced her to the
Yeah.
nonprofit.
Yeah. Because doesn't
Okay.
she tells New Girl her version of the story. And I think that that's what convinced her to give her that information, saying, hey, you need to contact a lawyer and have them look at this. Yeah.
So at that point, then things starts to progress for her going forward. It was peculiar that, the mom did seem to have some type of mental health issue.
Oh, yeah.
Um, just based off of, when she bounces in and out to visit the young lady, she really is not paying her any attention. I do feel that she loved her daughter, but she wasn't nurturing to that child, and I think that we'll find that along the way throughout this book as well. Um, I believe that Mary's relationship with all the other people in the home were, what led her
It was
to,
volatile.
I think, embellish her stories at some points, when depending on when she would tell it and how she would tell it. And then when she would pause and say, allegedly, it was very interesting how Miss Jackson really narrowed in on those different transitions within the book.
Yes.
I think that given the backgrounds of the girls in the home, I feel like, I mean, it was a recipe for disaster for sure because all of them had issues and they were there for a reason, and none of the reasons sounded um minor. It was all major things that they had done or crimes that they had committed to get put in the home. So I to me the volatile nature of the home, um I think that's how it probably would be in real life. Then with the lack of supervision and the lack of counseling services that were provided to the girls.
Yeah,
So they weren't really getting any type of rehabilitation while they were in there for sure. Um, so I believe that that could easily be any adolescent group home with
absolutely.
insufficient guidance. That could be anywhere in the United States that could be happening. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So because
Absolutely.
there was the lack of supervision, the lack of rehabilitation that was going on, within the home. But
Yeah, they were very like lax, like they very relaxed in the group home setting. I don't think that it had anything to do with rehabilitation at all. To me, it had a lot to do with survival. If you can survive this, nothing to do with being rehabilitated. Okay, so that's the first few chapters. At this point now, because she's pregnant and they find out about her being pregnant, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they start the process of putting Bean, and Bean is what she calls the baby, her baby. She called him Bean. I think Miss Winters and was it Miss Winters and Miss Stein? I know Stein was one of them.
yeah, I think that's where
They
that was their names.
Yeah, I think they started the process of putting the baby up for adoption. So at that point, she tells Ted, and it's like they don't want to give the baby up for adoption. They want to keep their kid. And so at that point, Ted, she and Ted started, coming up with ways with how they can keep the baby. And this is where Ted messes up. I want to say this happened around chapter 8 or 9, but she goes looking for Ted. And again, like he has his own group home. It's so funny like how this was like laid out for her, because she goes to the group home, and one of the guys that lived there, when she went to see him, goes, "Oh, you must be one of them girls that he hangs out with." And then she's like, "One," because they're all in love. Like Ted is like, I'm with you, we're having a baby together. I love you. This is it. And for her to discover that he's hanging out with other women, I felt like she was completely blindsided by this. But the way the events rolled out, and she ends up going to where he is, and confronting him and seeing him there with the girl, that threw them plans all the way out. She was done with it. And I kind of thought that it was going to stick, but it didn't, of course.
So I want to say, and I think Pina, you and I briefly touched on that. So what type of relationship? How did Ted really fit in her life, based on? We know how they met. We know that they both had some issues, as far as being away from their homes with their parents or whatever, and their overall connection, to each other. Because I was feeling like, um, oh, Ted is going to be the one that helps her overcome,
Yeah.
her weaknesses and to get her life back on check. He was supporting her with all of those things, and truly it looked like he wanted the best for her. But then somewhere along the way, their relationship became, kind of destructive also, from a
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
but
mental
she had
and you
no
had,
idea.
yeah, me and you had, discussed that and how I felt about it. I felt like that her bond, uh, um, Ted and Mary's bond was definitely a trauma bond. In any other time,
Yes.
any other space, they would not have been on each other's radar. Number one, because of the age difference. That's number one. Um, so I feel like they were brought together due to their circumstance. Both of them were in group homes. Both of them were estranged from their parents. They had a
Yeah.
lot of they were working or volunteering at the nursing home together. It was just like a relationship of convenience and one of just trying to find somebody to care about because they really didn't have anybody that cared about them. So I feel like
Yeah,
it was a relationship based off of trauma between both of them.
I agree. I agree. And the one thing that threw me off was the fact that they were getting down in the room with those people when they was asleep. Did y'all catch
Hey,
that?
you got to get it where you can get
You
it.
get it where you can get it, I guess. I don't
Right,
know. It's weird,
right.
but they're
And
And I
I
think
found it
Ted
interesting
really
too.
loved her. I think Ted really cared for her. I really do
yeah,
believe that. And I think him dealing with the other females was like straight survival mode, especially
yeah,
once he got put out of the halfway house or the group home that he was staying in. So I think he
yeah,
really cared for her deep
yeah.
down.
That's what I interpreted too. I interpreted that his feelings were true. And I did like the little piece in there where she said like the first time they did it, they little anklets was banging each other and they just bust out laughing because they both was so entangled. I was like, oh my God, that is not a picture I really want to envision, but I guess
Yeah.
it was
Listen,
interesting how they
shout out
found
to
would connect.
real quick shout out to Nicole 197808. She said in the YouTube chat, she said neither had an example of love, relationship, or loyalty. They were children led by hormones. Absolutely.
Yes, we
That
we
is
agree.
110%, 10% facts, Nicole.
We
Thank you
do
for joining.
agree.
Thank you for watching. Okay, so now she has discovered that Ted is not who he presented himself to be. She's done. She's over. At this point, because she's really trying to get her life together. I mentioned this earlier, where she wanted to take the SATs, and she had been studying for the SATs. What I liked about Tiffany D. Jackson's writing style was that the way she constantly referenced something, like different things throughout the book. And if you notice throughout the book, there's always when Mary would get in certain situations, there was a word for it. Did y'all pick up on that? Like there was a word, and then the word would be followed by the definition of the word that applied to the situation at the time. But that's also
Right.
her studying for the SATs.
Exactly. She
It
say
was
another
very,
SAT word.
yeah. And she'd say the word. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, she's studying for the SATs. So she gets to the point of it's time for her to. She needed to get her. Oh, let me double back just a bit because she's going to take the SAT. In order to take the SAT, she has to have her ID card. She doesn't have an ID card. Now let's talk about the mom's visit. This is going to link together eventually. Let's talk about the mom's visit to the group home when she's actually about to go out on a date. That's why I said double back. She's about to meet up with Ted and go out to the movies on a date, and the mom shows up. Was that weird to y'all and to those who's watching and listening? Was it weird to you how everything about Mary changed? It's sort of like she reverted back to being this little girl again. Like she didn't even tell her mom. Like she came dressed up, she had on her makeup and everything. Mom pops up and mom says, "Oh, this is what we're going to do. We're going to hang out and I'm going to, do this and do that." Totally don't go out on that date. Everything stopped because of her mom. Why y'all think that it was like that? And please chime in if I'm missing some details in how she just shows up and then all of a sudden what her mom says is gonna happen.
Yeah, I think Mary and her mother's relationship was backwards. I viewed it
Yes.
Mary was the parent and the mother
Yep.
was the child. So
Yep.
if you look at it like that, you and as an adult or a parent may have some plans, but if the child
Mm-hmm.
needs, if you feel the child's needs are more important than the plans, you're not gonna go. You're not gonna do
Yeah.
it. You're gonna attend to your child. So I think that's where it was for her. She felt like her mother needed her because she was having a day. So um
Yes.
So I feel like that's why she just threw all her plans to the side. The average teenager been like, okay, mom,
Oh yeah,
I will
no,
get
I'm
back
going
with
to the
you.
movies. Bye.
Yeah, but I feel like because their relationship was so dysfunctional and it was flipped,
Yeah,
that that's why she just threw the whole date aside and did what her mom wanted to do, because that's what a parent would do for their child when their child isn't feeling well, or if their child needs them in an emotional way. Everything else you have going on, that's on the back burner. You're going to take care of your child. So I feel like
absolutely.
Mary was more of the mother or the parental figure in the relationship than her actual mother was.
So let me ask you this. Did you pick up on this early in the chapters? Because eventually, later in the chapters, that was something that the psychologist actually put in the disposition, saying this is the nature of the relationship between Mary and her mom. Like, but did you see? Because to me, I didn't pick up on it at first, but as the book progressed, I started picking that up, like the way that relationship was, even when she was telling her story on the events that had happened leading up to Alyssa's death. Did you pick up on that early?
I did, because the way that um she kind of handled the brother's death, her little brother's death. Like her
Yeah.
mom had like completely shut down, at one
Hmm.
point. So, and also with the dealings that she had with, it's like the things that the stepfather would do was trying to do, or I don't know if he actually succeeded in, like, messing with Mary, but the
Mm,
thoughts that Mary was having, her mother should have had. You know what I
yes.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
not, it's
As a
like,
mother, you think
right, as a
certain
mother,
ways.
and this man
Yeah.
is telling you to take your child to get some medication because why he said so. So Mary, you know what I'm saying? It's like the reasoning was kind of off, in a lot of situations, about,
Yes.
so yeah, it was just like her mom was really like delusional, but
Mhm.
it was due to mental illness, but you know, but some of the things that Mary was thinking, her thought process was of somebody who was like way older than
Than
she
her age, than
was.
16. Oh, absolutely. What did you think about that, Queen Leah?
Well, I do agree that early on in the book, it did kind of like reference or lead you into believing that Mary was definitely very mature for a 9-year old. When she used to
Yes.
talk about she would count the money, and they didn't have enough money for the rent, and how what was the dude named Ray
Right.
influenced her mom and how she treated her. So I did see where she was definitely leading into that. The mom very likely was needing more, support than she was receiving from the man. And her 9-year old daughter was the one that was stepping in and keeping the mom kind of sane, saying, make sure you
Yes.
take your medicine, all this kind of stuff. And that started as soon as he decided that she herself should be given medication as well. Now, Ray, if we
We're
can
gonna get
talk
into
about Ray just a
Ray.
little bit.
Yeah, when we start to get to the last few chapters, we're definitely gonna come back to him, because I was literally about to interject and say, you know what, Ray was a character himself. You and I had a whole conversation about Ray, and it made me go back and listen to like the last few chapters, because what happened, and we are going to get to it, no worries y'all, but right now we're just at the part of the mom visiting her at the group home. But Ray has a lot to what do you call it, we're going to dive deep into him, because he needs that, because I didn't see it the way we've seen it when we spoke on it. So okay, so she visits, and she's pretty much, to me, what she's doing, because at that point the mom did find out that Mary contacted the attorney. So I think that this was her way of sort of being nice to Mary. So Mary didn't pursue what she was trying to pursue. Did y'all pick up on that? Like with the whole, oh, I'm gonna cook you your favorite this and that, and just sort of being super nice. And I think Mary seen through that. And she was over it. Like, definitely the mom was like the kid because she was really putting on airs. Like, you don't really care. You're not really trying to spend time with her. That's not what this is. Her mom was an opportunist. And being an opportunist, seeing as how, and we're going to get into that, how she convinced her to take the fall for everything that had happened. We are going to get into that too. She was an opportunist and she was doing what she needed to do. And then when Mary seen through that, they have this big blow up and she's gone now. She's done. That to me was crazy. And that's when I said, you know what? Mental illness is going to be all up and through this book because a mother don't act like that. That wasn't parental at all. Her behavior was not parental. And it just baffled me that Mary just seen through it.
Yeah,
Like you said,
like
Penny.
a lot of things that she did was not parental. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't parental at all. Um, you allowed your child to take the fall for a murder, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
You let a man that wasn't her father dictate how you treated this child. And then sometimes when she would speak to Mary, I don't know if it was the mental illness or what it was. It was like she was in an alternate reality. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
wasn't
Mental illness for
like
sure.
she would be recalling things, and Mary would be like, "I don't know who that is. That's not me." You know, I was this the child that she wished she had, or the relationship she wished she had with her daughter? You know, it was just a lot. But um, Mary could definitely, I think, tell when her mother was having a day, or because I think the more angry side of her mother was the real
The
her real.
real her.
I think that was her real self when she would
Absolutely.
lash out at her in anger. Um, so I think Mary only knew those two sides to her mother. It was like the delusional
Yes.
side and then the angry side. She
Mm-hmm.
never had that maternal, never saw that maternal side of her mother. You know.
Yeah. Yes. I totally agree. And Mary was on to her. Mary was very smart for her age. She seen through that mess and she kept it pushing and they were done. So now that we're getting to a point to where she asked Miss Stein to get her birth certificate and everything, social security card, so that she can get an ID. She gets an ID. She needs the ID to take the SATs. She has her ID now. If you remember, I talked about one of the girls in the group home. She ended up putting that girl in the hospital. Now, Queen Leo, do you or Penny, do you remember what had happened to put her in the hospital? She did something to the girl, and it was bad.
Yeah, she
It was,
threw hot water that had oil in it. Boiling hot water
yeah.
that had oil in
Oh man.
it. And she said she had learned that from her mother. You
Yep.
know, she said she had, like the oil would stick where the water would run off,
Where
but the oil would stick.
but the oil sticks.
And that's what she threw that
Oh
in that
my
girl's
God.
face. She threw it in her face.
She threw it on her, put that girl in the hospital. So now the girl done got out. She's back in the group home. First of all, let's talk about Miss Stein. You should not have had them two together. If something like that happens, see, Stein was keeping things under wraps.
Mm-hmm.
So they really weren't running this group home the way they should have been. You know what I'm saying? So that girl should have never come back, but she did. So now Mary is living in fear, and so is New Girl at first. New Girl too is scared out of her wits, and she's super happy to be in the room with Mary, and Mary never trusted New Girl to begin with. Did y'all pick up on that? After hearing the story, so New Girl had this backstory. The reason why she was there was because she tried to kill her parents. She had, at the time, I think her mom I think she had poisoned her with something, and the mom was in ICU.
Well, I think they said that. Well, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but I'm not sure what the new girl story was. But at some point, she said that she pushed her mama down the stairs.
That okay, I know something. Or did she try to
And
poison her? Somebody got poisoned.
and then she
I
went
do
into a
remember that.
coma and she never, well,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So that's new girl. So now she's bunking with new girl. The other young lady is back from the hospital, and of course, she's gonna get her vengeance. So Mary is definitely sleeping with one eye open. New girl is definitely scared too. And certain things happen here and there. And eventually Mary go to take the SATs, and she get there and finds out she don't have her ID. Why? Because the one she put in the hospital had taken it, because she was sitting in the room the night before, talking to new girl, which I thought was weird. Did y'all think that was weird that she was in the room talking to new girl? Because it seemed to me new girl was supposed to be scared of her. Why are they having a
Right.
conversation?
But the new girl also said, which we don't know allegedly, right? That
There you go.
the girl came into the room while she wasn't in there, and when she came in, she was in there. And I guess she started
Oh,
making
okay.
small talk with the new girl just to cover up that she done stole the girl daggone ID.
There you go. So
Perhaps.
that's what it was. So she goes to take the SAT and find out that her wallet has been stolen, so she don't have the SAT. I mean, I'm sorry. So she can't take the SAT. And so she digressed. It goes on. The contention is high in the house because, at the time, the girl needs to she want to get her vengeance on her pretty much. So I felt like she was already setting her up for something. So now we're probably around chapters what, 14 now. Let me say this once again: if you're watching, please like and subscribe to our channel, Divas Book Club. We're at the point that we're going to dive into the last few chapters of the book, because let me save you a little time if you have not read this and you actually decided to listen in on this. Everything you need to know is going to be in the last, how many chapters, Queen Leo? Tell them.
Maybe last 4 chapters, 5, maybe.
Is that, Penny, do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
I agree, but can we back up a little bit to this ID?
Okay.
It was several times in this book where I was just disgusted, and that was actually one of them. When she had went all of that to get the ID,
Yeah.
or to get the birth
Yeah.
certificate in order to get the ID.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gets there and no ID. I was like, are you serious right now?
I was so
that was
frustrated.
very
Yeah.
I was
very
frustrated for
disheartening.
her.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was very
okay.
disheartening because
Let's call it what it
she had
is.
jumped through some
I was
hoops.
pissed at that point.
Yeah. Right. I was like, are you serious? I was like, are you serious right now? So, but yeah,
when she started searching through that purse,
definitely. You can't put the book down or stop listening once you get to that point in the book, because you like, I gotta know what's gonna happen.
Yes.
I just can't like pause it right now or put the book down right now, because my imagination is gonna run wild, and I have to finish this right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it became, you tied in completely now. I gotta finish it. I gotta see what happened.
You're locked in, because I finished this book in 2 days. The first few chapters, I wouldn't say that they were slow, because it was so many things happening with her being in the group home. But what I wanted and needed to know what really happened. And when she got the lawyer, I knew it was coming. So she told the lawyer story, but there's so much more. And all of that is going to be in the last 4 chapters of the book. As a matter of fact, I'm going to quote you, Queen Leo. If I would have known this, I just would have went straight to Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Queen.
Yeah, you threw me out there.
But I agree. I totally agree. I would have went to the last 4 chapters and you would have got the whole book.
Got it
But it
all.
was well worth it. It was worth it. Okay, so now we're in the last 4 chapters, and there's so much that is happening. Let's start with old girl getting her vengeance. So from the beginning, and I want to say this was either chapter 15 or 16, when New Girl changed. Oh my God. New Girl finds out that her mom, who was in a coma, has now died. Exactly. Right? That I think that the way she wrote it, that's what actually happened. There was silence all over. And New Girl gets into this whole she's different now. And so does Mary. Mary changes a bit because New Girl is actually relieved. She's celebrating. She said, yes, she's like, yes, I did it. This is it. That was enough for Mary to be super suspicious about her. And now she's gonna sleep with one eye open in that room. She's in the room with the devil.
Yeah, she was scared. She was scared of her at that point when she saw her reaction to
Yeah.
her mother dying. She was like,
Yep.
"Oh, okay. Oh, she really did." And in the way that the New Girl, I think, had said it, this was not the first time. She's like, "I finally did it." So I think
Yep.
she had been trying stuff the whole time to take her mama out. So I would have been
Oh yeah.
afraid too. And you
Oh
pregnant on top of this, you know what I'm saying? So it's a
yeah.
lot going on. You pregnant and you sleeping in a room with somebody you know meant to. It wasn't allegedly with her because she was
No,
so
that
happy
was for
that her
sure.
mother had died. And I was like, oh wow,
Yes.
okay, yeah, you need to get out of the
And
room with her.
and I didn't blame Mary. I didn't blame her for sleeping with the equivalent of, I think it was like a shank or her knife under her pillow. And sleeping with one eye open, trying to make sure she's keeping up with old girl moves. Because she moved differently at night. Like that heifer was not sleeping.
Right.
so,
And so Mary was not either. So they had that's how their companionship was developed. She knew her
yes.
moves and
Yep.
uh basically they seen something in each other. They did.
They were
The new
drawn
girl
to each
did
other
her
in
position
a way.
totally changed. She became erratic.
She did.
She was too excited about her mom being dead. Ultimately, she wanted her dead. That's why she pushed her down the stairs or whatever she did. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
and the dad, and then did you hear her like on the phone with the dad begging and pleading him to come,
To come
let
and
her
get
come home, come pick
her.
her up. And so you knew
Yes.
that relationship was completely broken
Mm-hmm.
at that point for her, and something definitely was wrong with her, because I don't think that parents just really turn on the kids like that if they don't have some type of issue with them.
Yes. And moreover, there's a part of the book where they're doing Thanksgiving celebration there. And although Mary was invited to join, I think it was the lawyer invited her to come to the house for Thanksgiving. She didn't go. And New Girl was saying that her dad was coming to pick her up. And she literally waited in the same spot all day. The dad never came. Now I felt sorry. This was after the mom had died, by the way. And she's sitting there waiting literally all day. And she kept that hope saying, yeah, well, it's New York and it's probably traffic and this and that. And I said to myself, he's not coming. That relationship is severed. So although you don't get the backstory on, why she did what she did to her parents, definitely you can tell that relationship was done. Like whatever she did, like she had real issues, and that dad wasn't. No, there was no coming back from that.
And I
So
think
at
Correct.
that point,
as a parent, and you know that your child, because the dad he was in the hospital too, wasn't he? I think Or did I not read that part?
At a certain point, he was, and
Yeah.
that's what I
So
think I mentioned that she had poisoned him.
you're right. So she poisoned you. She killed your wife, which was her mother. Would you really tell
Mm-hmm.
her that you were actually not coming to get her either? I would be like, yeah, babe, I'm on the way.
No,
Just to
unfortunately,
keep her from like, you don't know what she's capable. I mean, you do know what she's capable of, but she's she's unstable. So would you actually tell
she's
her
unstable.
that you were not coming? So do do I don't know if I can say I felt sorry for her because
I sort of did, but then I was
I
like, she's
mean, but
changing. I felt she was
you make
changing.
your bed, you have to lie in it type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that she had done leading up to that and her reason being in the house was the reason that her father never, you know, came to get her. Would you actually come and get
Yeah,
her? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
seriously, would you actually come and get her? Like, no. So,
yeah,
yeah, he probably did say he was coming, knowing in all actuality he was not coming to get her. Because, like, why would you?
yeah. Essentially, like, why would you? Like, she's guilty of what she did, and I would have kept my distance. So okay, so now new girl finds out mom died. New girl now has switched into this who she really is, right? And she picked up on Mary's fears. Now, what didn't happen, the way Tiffany's the authors, the way she wrote this, she didn't get into it in depth. And I didn't see this coming. And y'all let me know if y'all seen this coming. She started plotting with the girl that Mary put in the hospital. And I'm trying to figure out at what point she changed.
Well, basically, when she noticed that Mary was seeing her through a new lens,
Yeah,
she started to
probably.
become, different, have different feelings about Mary. But what I want to know is, what do you think that really drew Mary and the new girl together? What was that connection?
I think it was Mary's resilience to survive being there. And she new girl, she looked at her as somebody who has survived something. Um they weren't they weren't like Mary didn't choose to be in that room with her. That just happened. That's something Miss Stein did.
Right,
The
right.
people who were the overseers of the group home, they assigned her, to that room. And so I think what drew them together was Mary was fearless. And I think that really the new girl that the real her, um seeing that in Mary with being fearless. I mean, it seems like to me like she just needed somebody to try to help protect her, and that's going to take up for her, you know sort of like a type of relationship where, okay, well, I may not be strong at this, so I'm going to lean on this person to hang out with this person because they seem to know how to handle themselves. Like, don't seem like they're that are like scared, like they know how to survive this.
And I also think
I mean, that's my
they
take.
bonded as well when her and Mary were the only ones that went in the basement, I think, and used the computers. I think that's
Yes.
where I think the new girl felt like Mary was more like her, like kind of smart. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are the only
Mhm.
two that are down here on the computers. And then she started helping Mary with the computers.
Yes.
So I think that kind of in her mind that made Mary, her friend. And
Yeah.
then when she did stand up to the other girl and hurt the other girl, she was like, okay, well, yeah, I really need to make her an ally, because she's smart like
Yeah.
me. We kind of got things in common, and she can stand up for me, if the other girls try to get me. I feel that
Exactly.
the relationship changed, and that new girl kind of turned on Mary when she found out that she was trying to leave. I think
Now
that
that
sense of
and
abandonment,
there we go.
that sense of
Um,
abandonment,
her-
like
Yes.
turned. It was she was hurt at first, and then it turned to resentment because I think she looked at her like she was another person trying to leave her. Like her dad didn't want her. I think she had a sister that didn't, or a sibling that didn't have anything to do with her. So now the only friend that she felt like she had was trying to leave her. And and she was like, well, I can go, we can go, or something like that. And Mary was like, no, you can go with me, And I think that's when the relationship changed, and then that's when she became allies with the girl she had hurt, that the girl Mary had burned. So I think that's where it flipped for New Girl. And then I think the other issues that she had, what other everything else she had, she honed in on Mary, and then she had an ally in the other girl because she didn't like Mary either. So I don't like Mary, you don't like Mary, let us be friends.
Let's team up. Let's team up. And thank you so much for saying that, Penny, because that is exactly when she flipped because of abandonment issues. And Mary was going to see her plans through. And so turn of events that happened. Now New Girl has teamed up with, and somebody please learn the girl's name. Or tell me the girl's name so I don't keep calling her the girl that Mary put in the hospital. They team up together. Mary and Ted, now they're back together because they broke up during the time when Mary found out that he was dating this other girl or whatever, and found out the type of person that he really was. So now it took a minute for him to convince Mary to get back with him, and literally months, right? And so he finally convinces her that she's the only one that he want to be with, and they formulate this plan to, and please correct me if I'm wrong, to go down to Virginia where his family is and start a new life together. They formulated that plan. She was supposed to take the train and meet him at a certain space, and they were going to get out of there. Well, that night, when, before she's to get up and leave, like she's get everything together, all at the same time, she can't have New Girl the wiser because she don't want anybody to know that she's about to sneak out overnight. Well, she gets up, she starts her journey to go to meet him, and something in her said, turn around and go back. Do you remember that part, Queen Leo?
Well,
where
one of the things
she kept
was
saying, because New Girl was not in her way.
Second manipulation took place was that the girl turned off her alarm clock. So she was late.
Yes.
And then she jumped up and she started, she said it was God that woke her up or whatever. And she started running around the room, gathering up her stuff, and you know what I'm saying, in a hurry. And I think that when she woke up, she checked for her knife, and her knife wasn't there. Then she got in,
and New Girl was not in the bed.
Hurry up.
Yes.
Right. And so from there, you knew that there was foul play is getting ready to happen. I mean, it was clear that she wasn't going to make it out of that house.
There was a part of me that was like, please listen to your second mind. And people say that all the time. Anytime you have something in the back of your head and it's something that's nudging at you and saying, don't do it, just don't do it. Because if Mary would have listened to herself and stayed in that bed, things would not have, happened the way they did. And so, who want to tell this part of what happened when she's trying to sneak downstairs to leave out and she's confronted by New Girl? No volunteer.
She tried to sneak out, and they ambushed her at the stairs. They ambushed her at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
And they pushed her. I don't know which one actually pushed her. I can't remember that.
It was the one that she put in the hospital. I gotta learn her name.
Yeah,
but it was the one that
and that was pretty much it. At that point for me, I actually thought, this is me trying to foreshadow the book, but I thought she was gonna lose Bean.
Me too.
I thought the story was gonna turn was that she was gonna lose Bean, and then she wouldn't have to worry about where he was going. You know what I mean? But
right.
Yeah.
As we see, she didn't. That part was, I was relieved that she didn't lose the baby. in spite of the situation. But I thought that's where the book was gonna turn, was that she was gonna take this horrible fall and that she was gonna lose
You
it
know, we all do that. We all try to figure things out before it actually happened. And I'm so with you. I thought she was going to lose Bean, but I'm going to tell you what I thought. I thought she was going to lose Bean, and then I thought that she was really going to murder someone. That was my thought. Like, okay, maybe she didn't on purpose, kill Alyssa, but she's about to body these girls and really make it, I'm in here for a reason. That was me foreshadowing too, Penny. I'm with you. But that's not what happened. So she's ambushed in the stairs. She's pushed down the stairs, and if I'm not mistaken, New Girl beat the hell out of her too.
Well, because Mary
that
she was in really bad shape
bad shape?
after that fall and whatever else they did to her, because they did knock her around prior
I'm telling you,
to her falling down the
up.
stairs. But she tried to run, and but shoot, when I saw them two, well, I guess she couldn't do much because she got this belly in front of her, so she had to think about that too, how she was calculating and trying to figure out how she was going to get out of that situation. But she was definitely going to go down those stairs. But she was like, all that noise and commotion they was making, what was the daggone,
where was Miss
what you
Stein?
call her, Aunt Tynes or whatever her name?
Miss Stein them.
So she was trying to figure that out.
Where were they?
Not giving a darn like they had been doing the entire time the child been in the house.
The entire time.
Nothing.
When she burned the girl and she had to take the girl to the hospital.
And kept that under wraps.
I don't know how they kept that under wraps. You know what I mean? I mean,
I don't know
either. Outside of the house. It's outside of the house. And how in the world did you keep that under wraps? You done had somebody that was in the hospital a while. She was in the hospital a while before she came back.
She was. So, and that was that. And Mary used that. Saying that she was going to report it. So when Mary, like, for example, going back to when she needed her ID and her birth certificate, she reminded her, you need to get this for me, or I'm going to, let them know exactly what happened, why she ended up in the hospital. Like the things that they should have been doing, they weren't doing. They wasn't running that house right. So, okay. So now she's been ambushed. She wakes up. She's in the hospital. First and foremost, Bean is okay. Bean is fine, although she is really beat up. At this point now, things are on Front Street. And I'm so happy we talked about Miss Steinem. Things are on Front Street now because it's been exposed. They're not running that group home the way they should be running it, because this should have never happened. And I can't think of the lady's name who's over the group house, but she came to visit Mary there at the hospital, right? And she really goes in on Miss Steinem, saying, no, things are going to change. First of all, them two girls out of here. They're no longer.
I think she was one of the higher up directors in the social services. So basically, she had worked with her previously, and something had happened to a girl. I think the girl ended up dead or something. And they let her go and gave her, they downgraded her position because she was saying that her caseload was too much.
Mm-hmm.
So then you already knew that, okay, this lady got a shady background from the very beginning. And you could tell she was using them girls, trying to make them like, treating them like slaves and stuff like that. And talking about cleaning the house and doing this and doing that, and all she wanted to do was eat the snacks.
Yeah, she was snack happy.
she was a lady.
Man, sorry, Queen Leo. She was snack happy. She them snacks was for real.
Yeah, that was her. Yeah. That was the highlight of her day. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like how she was yelling at them girls and screaming and then talking to them any kind of way and talking about the macaroni and cheese. She was just she was a
It's a
real
piece of work.
character in this book that I think that at that point when Mary was if since they didn't have any corrective action after the girl got burned,
Yeah.
then I certainly believe that when Mary got pushed down those stairs, she should have been relieved of her duties right then and there.
Then, yeah. But
Nothing.
see, they never reported that. They never reported that. So there was no repercussion. There was no discipline. And now Mary's in the hospital, all that is coming out. And I think that's why she did what she did. The crazy thing is they kept their jobs. To me, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was a lot. Um, I believe it had to be a turnaround once they released her from the hospital. There is no way you can cover all that up. That girl she was hurt bad.
Well, yeah, and then you
And
have
she
to
was
think
pregnant.
about, yeah, and she was pregnant. So if not the fall, if not the fall, before all of that, when she finds out that she's pregnant, that should have been the end of that house there. Because, like, yes, they are allowed to go out, but you know what I'm saying? So what are you guys doing here? What is going on here? That one of the girls in the transitional house or the group home is pregnant.
Yeah.
Um, it was a lot going on there from the beginning, but they were definitely not being treated well. But in some professions, the doo-doo go uphill instead of going downhill. So
Exactly.
it can go uphill. So that means that people in higher positions can get punished for things that their subordinates are doing. So they trying to keep stuff from getting higher, because if the higher it gets, the worse it's going to be for
The
everybody.
worse the
And
situation
everybody
becomes.
that's involved in those girls' cases. So yeah, they and then Miss Stein, was that her name?
Yeah.
Miss
Yeah.
Stein? She was the one
It's fine.
that was a social worker before, and the child died that you mentioned, and that she was saying she had too much
Oh,
on
okay.
her soul food. I think, was that her?
Hmm.
I think so. And I think that at that point she should have never been allowed to be in that position anymore. She should have had found a new career.
Yes,
I think. Um
yes.
and then didn't you guys think it was weird that when Mary's mom would come there to visit her, that there was no interaction between them?
Right,
None.
right.
Between the mom and the counselors that was working, or the
The
Miss Stein.
supervision.
Any of them, to be honest, because if she actually has a parent coming in visiting with her, there should be some form of counseling set up for them on the side so that they can try to help Mary work through whatever the issues they say she have in her mind going on. And then the house lady should also have a relationship. It seemed like um when that lady came in there, everybody just disappeared. There was no one else in the house ever.
Hmm.
Well, don't you think it's weird that Alyssa's mom came there? Where
Just
where
walked in.
where they do that at? Like, she is a
Wait,
victim.
wait, wait. When did she visit her there? I know Mary visited her, but when did
No,
she visit?
no, that first encounter was she came to the group
Was in the
home.
group home.
Okay. Okay.
When I think she came when she found out that Mary was getting a lawyer, or the lawyers had reached out to her.
Okay. All right.
And she came to, breathe that hot heat on Mary because she's still hurt. And, and I thought that her role, that was her role in the book too, was was tragic. Um, I guess that's where we
She's the
can we
victim.
can we can
When
travel
do
along the road now because Mary done been out.
it's time?
She's out of the
Yep.
hospital. Ted hasn't heard from
Yeah.
her. She hasn't been to the nursing home. She didn't show up that night. He knew that she was
Yeah.
living in a volatile environment and he was just
She
going
was supposed to
crazy
meet him.
trying to figure out, was she dead? Was Bean dead? What was going on? Did she just change her mind or whatever the situation was? And I know that that had to been tough on him too because she couldn't get out. But it was pretty. I think that he handled himself very well. If I'm not getting ahead, because I think that one first of all, Alyssa mom came, visited with her, and really was like, she talked bad to her, but she
You hear
still
me?
had some love in her heart for her. And then she sort of implied that she didn't think that Mary was able to could do something like that. A 9-year-old child, it wasn't her fault, basically, is what she was saying to Mary. But at the same time, she was still going based off of what the media, the police reports, all this stuff that was happening. Even what did y'all think about all this media press that girl had got? 9-year-old, there was no, they started making money off of her back, selling books, and then talking about a movie. How did y'all feel about that? I think the press was the worst.
I think it was I think it was weird that it wasn't any type of censorship because of her age. You know what I mean? You would think that um especially during the trial and certain details, like I know that documentaries and books have been written about other child killers, but all that has been kind of after the fact. I think a lot of it was going on during the trial. Like her identity was never concealed. I think that
Concealed
I
at
think
all.
no, it was like they knew from the very beginning. So even if she wasn't found guilty, she would always be known as the child that had been charged with murder.
Do you
So
also think, would you think that because she was black or mixed, that may have played a role in how they handled that case, especially with the
that,
meteors?
speaking in today's climate, well, in this country's climate, that
Exactly.
could have possibly been a reason. And bringing up um race or ethnicity, um I had listened to a review, and the lady had said that throughout the whole book, it just struck her it was a lot of negative stereotypes against black people was in this book that she didn't really like. That a lot
Right.
of the negative stereotypes that are placed upon um
Black and brown people.
black and brown people were like a major theme throughout the book. So I was like, yeah, okay. I didn't really look at it that way, but when you actually say it and you think about the things that were going on throughout the book,
How she was being talked down to,
Yeah.
you know, how there was no respect. It was almost as if she was invisible, even besides her being very quiet in the home, but she was invisible to the people around her. If there was
Yeah.
anything ever said to her, it was always negative. Um, and the way the book described her, that she was a pretty beautiful young lady. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, like there was some of the girls in the home was really jealous of her. They called her ugly, all kind of stuff like that. And I was never okay with that, but I was looking at something and I was like, well, yeah, I think that it's a possibility that, that she was being treated that way because of her skin color too.
Yeah.
Especially
So
from the perception of the, being how they handled her, more importantly in public, that they did not protect her. She was not protected.
no,
As a 9-year-old child, your name shouldn't have been thrown all over.
the media.
But then her mom sold
Yeah.
her
So
out.
now we are in the last couple of you're muted, Penny.
Yeah, especially before she was found guilty, you know. So I think it was maybe that had a lot to do with it. The lack of um the parental presence
Guidance.
also. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, as a parent, we all would, I mean, fight tooth and nail um
Yes.
to protect our child, you know, by all costs. But um so yeah, it was a lot going on with that, and it makes you think the reasons why, you know, it happened the way it did.
Yeah.
So, okay, so at this point, we are let's get into the last two chapters of it. So she's now out of the hospital. She's back at the group home. The two girls has been removed. Um, and now she's reflecting the story of what really happened. And once again, the mom is gonna visit her, right? So I'm gonna tell this and then let's talk about it. She goes back to the group home. The lawyer tells her that once the mom figured out what she was doing in terms of having the case opened again, the lawyer says, well, now your mom has brought up your little brother, who also died at the house with you around. And your mom said she thinks you had something to do with it. Now, before I go there, let me preface it with this. It also came out that Mary is really not her mom's daughter. When they decided to reopen that investigation, the mom said, that's not even my child. I found her and I took her in, which is crazy to me. So fast forward. So now we're at the setting where Mary is going over the story in her head with her mom visiting, said, this is what actually happened. So here we go. This is what happens, according to Mary, allegedly. They
I think
volunteered to babysit Alyssa. The mom is there, but not around. And Alyssa is constantly crying and crying and crying. Mary thought, now this is Mary going over it in her head, telling us what really transpired. Mary decides to put pills down the baby's mouth. The mom she's crying and doing all that. The mom comes in at the time Mary's stuffing the pills down the baby's mouth. Mary's mom takes the cross from her necklace and tries to dig the pills out of the baby's mouth. They get in a struggle with the baby, trying to, Alyssa, of course, not Alyssa, but Mary, of course, is trying to hold on to her. The mom's trying to hold on to her. The mom slips on the pill bottle and lets go, and the baby is thrown across the room. And she dies. Right? That happens. Mary, the mom says, listen, she's dead. You gotta get out of here. And I'm trying to think, why did she go to the backyard? She told her to go to the backyard to do something. She was supposed to do something, and she ends up digging these holes. And I can't remember what it was, but based on Mary's story, she dug 3 holes, and one was in the neighbor's yard where she didn't touch that cross. She said, and this is Mary's story, I didn't touch the cross with my hands. She used her nightgown and she buries it in the neighbor's yard, so the police would never find it. Why did she go to the back to dig holes? Like, what did her mom tell her to do? I can't remember. Do y'all remember?
I don't.
Because that the baby died, like the baby was already dead. And the mom convinces her that she want her to take the fall for the death because she's a kid and you're not going to be in prison long. That's the whole story. The mom wanted her to take the fall for something that technically she should have been held responsible for. But it came down on Mary. So, okay. So anyway, she goes to the back. She digs some holes, whatever. In one of the holes in the neighbor, she never told anyone this story, that she took the cross that the mom tried to dig those pills out with and buried it in the neighbor's yard, whatever. Comes back. The police, by the time she gets into the house, the police is there. Boom. She's being blamed for murdering that baby. And I'm sorry, I should have also said this. This is in the last few chapters. She's out of the hospital. She goes to visit Mrs. Richardson because she's asking Mrs. Richardson to adopt her baby, to take the baby. And Mrs. Richardson says no. Initially, she says no. She couldn't do that. So at this point, she knows she's also about to be transferred to a different group home upstate New York.
And that was actually on the table some chapters back, that they were looking into finding a home for girls like her, pregnant, teen mothers or whatever. But I'm trying to place in my mind, when did the conversation take place with the counselor? Okay, I know when it took place. Okay, go ahead, Jay. So she goes and visits Miss Richardson, and
she does. Yeah.
And she wants to basically ask her if she would adopt her baby.
Mm-hmm. But she says no. She says no, I can't do that.
But so I was surprised. I was surprised that she said no.
I wasn't. We talked about this. I wasn't surprised. She's the victim. I think that's in a sense, although years has passed, about 7 years has passed, but she's the victim. And she doesn't have her daughter. I think it was bold of Mary to ask her that. And I understand now why, because she appreciated Mrs. Richardson's love and affection for her. Here's the thing. As she's telling the story in the end, this is the very last chapter. She talks about how the love of Mrs. Richardson was worth 1,000 more than Ted. She was in love with Ted. So it didn't matter. This entire time, she wanted Mrs. Richardson to be her savior. When she was a kid, she tells a story early in the book about how she's sitting under the Christmas tree, and Miss Richardson said, I wish, I want a daughter just like you. You're such a good little girl. She loved Miss Richardson. Did she mean to kill Alyssa? No, that was an accident. That was definitely an accident. But at the end of the day, it happened. And she also says in the end, and I quote, she says something to the effect, it didn't matter that Alyssa was dead. As long as she get that love from Mrs. Richardson, that's what she wanted. That's what she needed. This entire time, it was about her having a mother that loved her.
Can y'all hear me?
That's what she was after.
I can now.
Yeah, I can now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Back to the baby dying was an accident. The baby being thrown was an accident.
That's what I'm saying. That was an accident. Well, okay. But here's something to think about, Penny. Here's something to think about. She stuffed some pills down her mouth to quiet her. She stuffed the pills down her mouth because as a kid, that's what they told her to do to calm her down. So she thought she want to be responsible for this kid, and she want her to be a good girl, right? And show people that she can take care of her. She put the pills in the baby mouth. Well, at least the mama knows she shouldn't have did that. And the mom's way of going about it was to take the pills out. So technically, that struggle holding on to Alyssa, when her mom loses the grip and she falls and the baby flies across the room, pure accident.
Yeah, that was accident. Her putting the pills down the throat was very intentional, even though her motive for doing that was in her young mind that she was trying to make the baby quiet.
Do the right thing.
In her mind, make the baby do the right thing, but the act of putting the pills down the baby's throat was very intentional. So, would the baby have died just from the pills? You'll never know, because but from what I think the autopsy said, it was a good amount of pills in this, and pills in the baby's system. Whatever the medicine was, it was enough that may have contributed. The baby maybe would have died still, even if she wasn't thrown. You know what I mean? So, the throwing the baby was the accident. The putting the pills down the baby's throat was very intentional, even though in her mind it was to help the baby to be calm, but that was still, that was an intentional act. But I think the reason that Miss Richardson didn't want to take the baby take Bing was, number one, I think she knew she was not mentally capable of taking a child or being the mother to a child, another child. I think that I think she was drinking alcohol that morning while Mary was talking to her, and it was like the house was just littered with liquor bottles. The house was unkept. I think mentally she knew she was not able to care for a child. And on top of that, Mary's child, the person that was punished for killing her child, you know what I mean? Then she was single. She didn't have a mate. Her marriage broke up because, of the baby's death. I think it was a lot of things, but I think she had enough clarity to know that she would not be a good candidate to take this baby, It was like those last two chapters was powered with a lot of information, a lot of stuff that was cleared up about, exactly what happened to Alyssa. But I also it really showed too that Mary was kind of living in a fairy tale to think that this would end like happily ever afterish. You know what I mean? Like she was trying to figure out a way where she could possibly give being to someone and then come back and get him at a later date. That with her moving, things would be better. She would try to drop the case against her mother. That will was already set in motion. That was not gonna
stop. I think so. If we go back, so we have to go back because after she leaves Miss Richardson and she says that she's not going to be able to take the baby, then she goes back to the house and they have another group session. And within that session is where I think that the wheels started spinning, that she really wasn't going to throw her mother under the bus, because the lawyer kept on telling her they got a great chance, but she need the smoking gun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so Mary knew she had the smoking gun, but she knew that she wasn't gonna, relinquish that. However, I liked the conversation that they had down in that basement when she when she had the courage to tell her story.
Yeah. She told everybody.
She basically said down there that her mother killed the baby.
Yes. And
And
one
the
of the
girls
girls
were
were
saying, but why would you
like,
want to send your mom to jail
yeah.
at that age? Which was the whole reason the mama said that Mary can go to jail. So I do believe that within that conversation, that the last conversation Mary and her mother had, that yes, her mother definitely was responsible for some stuff that happened that night. That she convinced little Mary to confess to doing whatever. I don't even know if that girl actually gave her the pills. I really don't, because the story was a little wicked to me when it got to that.
Well, here's the thing. Those pills were for Mary. They were her pills. And she said that in the happenings, in that event of that happening to Alyssa, her mom told her to go get her pills to calm her down. But she went and got the pills for the baby and gave them to the baby.
Yeah, she
Which was
said that her mother intended the pills to be for Mary. I did. I got that,
she
but
confessed.
it's still something they're missing, because
Yeah. Well,
that
first of
child.
all, that's all she knows. Always keep to me. I had to always keep this in the back of my head. This is a 9-year-old. You understand? When you say go get your pills and you're not specific, this is a kid. That's why I've said this time and time again. In the interim, who's responsible for this murder? It wasn't Mary. It was her mom. See,
Yeah.
she's
So
babysitting as a responsible adult, and you got your kid looking after a baby like you always have done, like leaving her with her brother, like as a
well,
young kid.
now that definitely, she was only 5 years old when she did that, so that already showed that the mother definitely was negligent. Negligent.
Her mother was not.
So after we're gonna kind of move through this real quickly. After the group session, I felt that Mary had then finally let her feelings out. She was able to tell her story from her own perspective, whether it was truthful or
Yeah,
not, but she was able to actually speak
yeah.
about it, because that was her first time ever speaking about it while she was, been incarcerated or whatever. Excuse me. And so at that point, she spoke her truth. She moved on. Then I think Ted, what did Ted say? He said he heard the people talking at the nursing home saying that she wasn't coming back and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So how did y'all feel about his entrance to the home?
To the home.
When
Yes, to the
Ted
group
came
home.
to the group home, Ted was coming to find his woman and his baby.
Yes. Yes. She didn't meet him at that train station like the plans was set up. He didn't know anything about her being ambushed and being put in the hospital.
Right.
So that man came to find his woman and his
But
kid.
more importantly, how about his behavior is what I want
Oh, he ain't give a damn.
I want to
Ted
get to it, because he was down there hollering, acting a fool. That narrator was doing that scene right then.
Right now. I need to see
Yeah.
her right now. Take me
And
to that room.
I think that shows that he really cared about it, because at this point he is making himself very vulnerable by coming
Right.
there. She's underage, she's pregnant, and the baby daddy has just shown up. At that point, he's like, "What?" Everybody's like, "Is this okay? This got to be the baby daddy."
Excuse me.
If you remember, he also said y'all should have never had her around those girls. Y'all know that they was in and trying to hurt her. He came in there totally gangster. He showed his ass, and much respect for Ted for saying it, and he said it in
I
front of
loved it. At that part,
everybody.
in the narration and the storytelling of that book, it was so real. It was so like
Make me
I
clap.
get it. You know what I'm saying? He is even when he was in the room and he was finally got there, they let him in and talk to her. I think that conversation was really compelling. It was very emotional.
Oh
He was like, you know, I didn't think he was gonna leave, but he left. He finally left.
yeah. Mhm.
I was like, wow.
He's seen his woman. He got his point. He got his point across. He said what needed to be said, and she's okay. And for me, I already knew that in her way, she was trying to make amends with her past, everything that transpired, going over to Miss Richardson, saying that she want to drop the charge, like she don't want them to continue the investigation on her mom. She's already making that amends. She is settling up. What's gonna happen with that with Bean is gonna happen with Bean. But I'm with you, Penny. When you said that he came there for real, to profess his love, I believed in Ted then. I ain't
Yeah.
believing when he was there, smacking old girl on her butt, right, right before he came to the door when he got caught. I was like, oh yeah, well, Ted is he's a little jiggle over there. Like he's doing his thing. He got all these women. But he definitely loved her.
Yeah,
He
I think
loved her.
he loved her. Um, I think it was just the way that he handled her. I think that
Yeah.
uh he cared for her. He believed in her. I think the first time she went to get the ID, they were together. And then the first time she when she initially went to do the SAT stuff, he was with her. And then he went with her to get the ID. So I think he really encouraged her to do that kind of stuff as well. I think he saw something in her, and he fell in. I think he did fall in love with her, and him being with the other girls to me was like straight out of necessity. He was like on the struggle bus. He was the conductor of the struggle bus, so he was trying to survive. Hustling. That's that's he was just trying to survive. Ted was doing what he had to do. If being a gigolo was gonna have him someplace to lay his head, then oh well, so be it. And hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. So
Right.
At the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. So now we're at the very end of Allegedly. I listened to the end.
Before you go there, I want to ask the question.
Okay.
Why did y'all ever consider her maybe asking the lady from the ACT testing or the lawyer to take her baby?
No.
I don't know why. I would have thought that they would have been the obvious choice versus her mom or Miss Richardson. To me,
yeah.
I mean, they would have definitely been asked, seeing how they were such a positive impact on her life, that you would think that, and that I don't think they would have put up much resistance for her to get the baby back if things had if her name had been cleared, or it had been proven that she didn't kill the baby. But she never even, I guess, considered it. I mean, it wasn't ever mentioned in the book that she considered asking either one of them.
I didn't think that she would, because there was the thing about Mary, she didn't trust everyone. She had trust issues. Like she didn't even want to go to the Thanksgiving dinner that the lawyer invited her to. The lawyer was obviously trying to get close to her, sympathizing with her with her story, but Mary never trusted that. So I never thought about that.
She did go for Christmas though.
Yeah, but
and I mean, and they received her very well. My other thing is that I was thinking about excuse me, the probation officer also. I felt like almost when they was taking that car ride, I feel like maybe she was gonna offer him her baby because you remember they had a
So,
conversation. He told her,
so
um,
now we're in the very end, and she's leaving the group home, and she's going upstate New York, and she's in the car with the probation officer. And yeah, they're having a conversation, and he asked her, what is she gonna name the baby? And she said Benson. And she asked him, what's your full name? Like, because she's calling him Mr. Whatever. And he goes, it's something Kane, whatever. And she said, yeah, Benson Kane Atticus, I think what's the last name.
Addison or
And
something.
yeah, but she didn't ask him to take the baby, because don't forget, she also found out in the car that Miss Richardson, the victim, Alyssa's mom, said that she was going to write a letter on behalf of the baby. Now, did she say that she was going to take the baby? And let's go back to talking about mental illness. Mary had mental illness, because we have not even touched on that part where there were situations in this book where it was identified she talked to herself. She had issues. She had mental issues, real ones. And you don't pick up on it. I think with Tiffany, the way Tiffany wrote this book, you don't pick up on it until she's saying, do I still do that? Like, did y'all pick up on that she was talking to herself? Like,
Oh,
I'm like, the
absolutely.
book is the
Yeah.
way the book is being written, I'm thinking, okay, well, it's being told from Mary's perspective, but technically Mary would be talking to herself.
Yeah, she would, because people would ask her, "What did you say?" And she would be like, "Nothing," or she wouldn't say anything. But I think those were
Yeah,
periods when she was talking to herself. She was talking
it
to
was.
she's thinking she's having internal dialogue, baby. That was out.
She was having an external dialogue and she was saying it out loud. She had mental issues, and those pills, and I say that the pills was Ritalin. I don't know what those pills were because they never say it in the book. But I think that she had such a tumultuous upbringing, or like that growing up, she had problems, and that mom did not help. She was actually hurting.
Oh yeah. The mother
So,
was no help, because like she was misdiagnosed,
yeah,
I think, with ADHD, and that's how they got the pills from, I guess, this sham of a doctor that the stepfather had referred them to.
great.
Sound like he
Mhm.
was like a friend of the family or something, and they took her there, and she needs medication. She's this, she's that, and it was just off of word of mouth that she was given the pills. But yeah, Mary definitely had some mental health issues uh that were not as
Technically
not as
unaddressed.
evident in the beginning, I don't think. But the more you listened or read the book, it was evident that she was talking to herself, like, aloud. Like especially when she was reasoning or trying to figure out something,
Yeah.
she would definitely do that, and she wasn't even aware that she was doing it.
Right, right. And I'm so happy you brought Ray up, because earlier we said we were going to touch on Ray and that relationship. Spoiler alert, of course, this whole thing is a spoiler. Ray died. Ray got poisoned in his food by her mother. She says in the last chapter she watched Ray eat 3 helpings of the food that her mom prepared, and it was laced with whatever it was. I don't remember what the poison was, but her mom killed Ray. And I remember having a conversation with you, Queen Leo, and I was like, oh yeah, so the mom is crazy too, and murdered Ray. But the whole thing about her being molested, and that's something that is in the book as well, that Mary was being molested by Ray, and that's why the mother killed him. But I don't remember any part of that book that talked about the fact that she was being molested. Like, let's have that conversation.
She actually did speak about that she was trying to fight him off of her, and she was glad that he never actually got to her and stuff like that. Was because I think she
Okay.
would. run around the house and hide or something. I don't know, but I also am inclined to wonder after they interviewed Ray's wife or whatever, and and she was saying that no, he wasn't that type of guy, da 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 da. I'm in my mind, I'm trying to figure out, well, was Mary that delusional that she was making those things up?
I don't know. And that's the part where, when, again, listening to the book, sometimes you do miss these little nuggets. You know what I'm saying? And that's my reason for going back to the last few chapters and re-listening again, because it didn't seem to me that that was prevalent. Now, what was in the end, when the psychologist was doing the deposition, the psychologist said that she classically had a situation going on where she's the mother, Mary's the mother, and the mom is the child, and she's going to protect the child. She also said that, seeing as how she was a child being molested, that's what caught my attention, because I was like, at what point did Mary say that Ray was doing that? Because there is a part in chapter maybe 16 or 17 where the girlfriend, or it may have been the wife of Ray, said he would never do that. And she said that crazy puta, Mary's mom, killed him. Right? So I don't know if this was clearly expressed. Was that happening? Was Mary being molested? I don't know. I mean, I know you say that it's in there, but I didn't pick up on that enough to be like, oh, she was molested and this and that. I didn't pick up on that.
Well, because initially she said that excuse me, he was after her, trying to get at her, and because she was telling her mom and yelling and stuff like that, was the reason that he suggested that she takes her and get her the medication. That's how that whole thing came about with the medication, because Mary was adamant that he was trying to molest her.
Okay. Yeah, I'm saying, like, I didn't pick up on it.
Yeah, I think because the reason for the medication was to make her sleepy.
Yes.
I think he was trying to come in her bedroom at night, and I think maybe she would make too much noise or fight him off, or something to that effect, that he wanted her to be kind of sedated at night so he could come in there. So that's how he suggested this doctor that she went to without any type of evaluation, and they just went off of what Ray and her mom said, and prescribed her this medicine.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
So listen, we are at the point where we're at the end. This has been such a good conversation. Like, honestly, I think if you're watching this and you have a book club, this could easily be a couple of hours of discussion, because the perspectives that each person is going to have from listening to this, it's going to be a lot. Like, literally, if you've been sitting here listening to this, you can clearly see between myself, Queen Leo, and Penny, we have different perspectives. So this particular book is worth A, reading, B, really getting into and having a conversation with your book club. It has classically everything in the book that can spark a really good conversation. But I think that my number one, and I'm going to ask both of you, what was your take? I'll start. Here's my take from this. Mental illness is real, right? It's real. And seek help. Therapist, psychologist, I don't know, whatever. The way Tiffany wrote this book, it definitely was like all red flags in our culture, Black culture, and I'm speaking to the Black culture, right? That's one of those things where it's a bit taboo, But honestly, the things that happened should not have. With the things that transpired with Mary taking the blame for this murder, that was clearly an accident and could have been explained, and then the mother not taking responsibility is just, it was sad. To me, it was really sad. So, Queen Leo, Penny, I'm going to give you the closing words here and then we'll close it out. And thank y'all so much for joining and watching this. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, I just want to say that definitely we run away from the mental illness in our community. However, also just looking at that family, if the parents is disturbed or parent, how can you help the child? And
Right.
I saw in the book where I'm not sure that there was anything wrong with Mary. I mean, I think that they created that. I really do believe that. And I felt also that there were people out in the community trying to help her, and she wasn't because of her being incarcerated and all these different things that then happened to her, that she wasn't easily able to trust people. And then as far as that group home, that speak to our social services and what these people are really doing when they placing these children in these homes for whatever reason. So I don't know. That's my take on it, that we definitely still have some ways to go, but Tiffany Jackson was definitely getting it out there in the open for everybody to start taking heed and doing your part. And it definitely has been like the greatest opportunity for us to explore this book and share this information. We will be doing our members only book review at the end of the month, and we'll definitely come back and post, the rating of the book for everyone. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much
Absolutely.
for joining the Divas Book Club.
Absolutely. Thank you. Penny, you're next.
Oh, the last one. I I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed this book. It was a great listen for me. It really brings light into the saying, "The sins of the mother." It's like, the child sometimes inherits the thoughts, the flaws of the parent.
Yes.
This is definitely a book that attests to that. It's a very well written book, in my personal opinion. I do believe this was the author's debut book. I think she did a very good job with this book. It has a lot of layers to it. And mental illness, the judicial system, um, the child welfare system. It has a lot of layers to it. I think people will enjoy it. I have enjoyed conversing with my fellow Divas Book Club members, and I hope that you guys like and subscribe to our YouTube page. And next time, you guys can definitely join in the conversation. And I had a great night.
I had a great night too. Thank y'all so much for listening. We love you guys. Divas Book Club. We'll be back in April with a new book and a new discussion. And we do hope you join. Y'all have a good night. Love you.
Have a good night.